In this video, I'm going to explain to you how you can build your self-driving car. So this is your proof of concept, which I'm going to explain to you how you can actually step-by-step program it. So this white paper I have, and I drew this black box on it, and for the car, this is the road to follow. So as long as the car stays on the black lane, that means it's following the road. The moment it get off the black lane, that means it's not following the road. So I programmed the IR sensor to send a signal so that the green light can be turned into red, and also the buzzer goes off the moment it get off the road. So here we go. Ooh. So this is indication that it's on the road. Now it's not on the road, and it's on the road. So as long as it's on the road, it's gonna go smoothly. The moment it's not on the road, it's gonna send a signal to the buzzer and also the light. Now here on the proof of concept, I used obviously the buzzer and the light, but in another video I'll show you how you can actually program instead of sending the signal from the sensor to the light and the buzzer. You can send the signal to the motor that can control the tires. So what you can do is, once you have this set up, then you can put a chassis underneath it and put the tires there, put these motors there. So instead of sending a signal to the buzzer and to the light, you can send a signal to the motor. So the moment it goes off the road, so the motor can bring it back on the road by steering it and navigating it to keep it on the road. So that way it becomes a self-driving car. Now next step, what I'm going to show you how you can actually configure this on the breadboard. So these are different sensors we're using, and if you're not an electrical engineer, you probably will get confused how to actually cable it, because every sensor needs to be properly cabled and put onto the breadboard, and then link it with the Raspberry Pi. Let me explain to you step by step, sensor by sensor, how to do it. So once you have done that, then the second step would be for you to program it, like the logic using the Python. So we'll be writing, I think, a couple of lines code to control all these sensors and the logic, and step by step program it. So let's see what these sensors are. First thing first, I'm going to explain you about this infrared line following sensor. So this sensor is very important to make sure you keep track on the road. So this line following sensor can be used in a line following robot or a self-driving car. It's got two sensors here. The first white one is infrared light emitting sensor, which emits infrared light, and if sees an object in front of it, then it bounces back and comes back to the black receiver, which is basically light receiving sensor. So when you program this in Python, you call a function called value, which will return either 1 or 0. So this is the basic concept which you can use to program it. Now let's learn about different pins of it, right? So here I see we are using 3 pins there on this one, right? The first one is VCC that needs to be connected to a voltage between 3.3 to 5 volt. So this one here, the last one here, VCC. Now this is basically a wire that goes into my breadboard, and on the breadboard, as you can see, this is a red wire, right? That's basically voltage wire, and the voltage has to be between 3.3 to 5 volt. And I'm using pin 5. So when you put your Raspberry Pi, you make sure your first pin, and that's Raspberry Pi Pico, you make sure it goes in the first one, right here, like this, right? And this red line, and you put it on a VCC. You can use male to female, or if you're putting directly onto this pin onto the breadboard, then you can use male to male. But we are not putting on the breadboard directly, so we're using male to female pin. So here I'm going to put into the 5 pin, so which is basically going to give it the right voltage. The second is ground, right? And that's the yellow one here. You see this one. The ground is pin 3. So I put the ground one into pin 3. Okay. The third one is out. Basically, the third one is an out pin that will go into, if you follow that one here on the pin 1, right? And that's basically, when you program it, that's GP0. Now moving on to the next step, right? Next step is important. So here we are also using a buzzer, as you see here, a small buzzer. right? And this buzzer here is basically, it's got a, I'm going to take this off to show you, right? Yeah, here you go. Where am I? Here you go. So here it's got a two signs. It's got a plus sign, right? So this plus sign is a long pin, and then there is a short pin, okay? And this long pin, it's gonna go into number 22 here, okay? I'm putting in 22, and on 25 I'm putting the short pin. So then I'll show you where on the Raspberry Pi I need to connect this. Hold on a minute. 22 here, the long one, and the short one is gonna go into this, right? And now the 22 the long one, the plus sign one, the buzzer, is gonna go into Raspberry Pi 19, okay? And that's in terms of GP, right? What GP is that? 19, pin 19. I'm gonna show you here, right? And that's basically, last one is GP 15, right? And the second last one is GP 14. So when you do your programming, you need to pick up, you need to send an output to the buzzer, right? And this is plus sign, means this is your output. So you're gonna send an output to the buzzer to make it buzz, make a sound. So you're gonna send it to GP 14 here, this one here, GP 14, right? Remember that. So the third one is your the light, LED light, right? So you gotta put your LED light, you gotta put it in such a way that you have the pin 23, right? Is a long LED leg, right? It's a long leg. Let me show you here. This is the LED light. So you gotta put this long leg, as you see here, the longest leg here. The long leg is basically your ground, right? So this is gonna go into 23, and the rest, all the colors, right? The red, blue, and green. Those you're gonna put into the different GPs, and I'll show you where you're gonna put. So just the here on this one, the long leg is on 23, and the behind it I cabled with a black color. So that's gonna go into pin 3 here on the other side. Here you see pin 3, and pin 3 is the ground, right? And then the rest of it is basically beside the ground, as you can see. So the ground is what? This is ground is third one. 1, 2, and 3. This is ground, and that's where your black cable here on the breadboard goes in there. Especially the long leg one. Long leg one goes back into the pin 3 here. This one. You see, this is black. I'm touching it with my finger. So that goes into the ground. Okay, and then you have the other colors, right? So this 21 pin. Okay, that goes into GP1 next to the GP0. Okay, and then the green one here, the last one, 21, goes into the pin number 4, and then the pin number 5 is this gray one, which is basically connected to the 22, right behind this. GP1 is your red, GP2 is your green, and GP3 is your blue light. Okay. So that's why here you see here the 3 is ground. So okay, so next to the ground, this red color, okay, is 1. So that's basically your red light. Okay, and this GP2, which is basically next to the black, is your green light. And I couldn't find a cable with the right color for blue, so I put a gray there. So that's your basically corresponding to your blue. Okay, and that's how you can program your LED light as well. Now so this is all we need, these 3 sensors. So now what we're going to do next is we're going to actually write a program, and obviously you need to put a USB there and plug it back there, and the rest, if you don't know how to connect it to Tony, there are videos available under my Raspberry channel list. The first video explains you how you can do the Tony. So let's go back in there and do the programming now for all these sensors. We're gonna run Tony editor, right? So here you go, and then we're gonna start programming. So first line of code is we're gonna write it from Pico 0 import RGB LED. Now that is a Pico 0 module which required to be installed in Tony before you can use this line of code. So if you haven't done that, you will get an error. So for example, if I run this code, right, I will not onto Raspberry Pi here. I'm gonna save it onto main, this code, right? Okay, no worries, replace it, fine. So see, I'm not getting any error. Why? Because this Pico 0 module is installed. And so if you get an error here, you need to watch this video which I'm showing on the screen at the moment. So that's in the Raspberry Pi list. So next step, next code is that from machine, that is the machine module, import pin, because we're going to use pin as well. That's another class we're going to use. And then we need to do is we need to program IR pin. And do you remember when I told you our IR pin input, the infrared input was on GP0. So we need to, that's why we need to pass on here 0, and also because it's an input, so we need to pass on pin.in, right? So these are the two parameters we pass to pin and telling it which GP to pick up the signal from. And I explained in the video when I was configuring our infrared sensor that we plugged our output to GP0, okay, on the infrared. So that's why we're doing 0. And the second thing is RGB light, right? So that's what we're gonna do, our RGB LED. And RGB LED has when I was configuring, I was telling you that there was a long leg which was like ground, and the rest was red, which was GP1. We configure red on GP1, right? And then we configure green on GP2, and we configure blue on GP3. Okay, so that's where we configure, that's how we other 3 pins besides the long pin we configure, and I also explained you in the video. But we're going to only use our red and green in this program, not blue. But if you want to use the blue, that's on GP3, so you must remember that. So we're gonna say while true, that's a loop, infinite loop we're gonna run. I'm gonna say IR, okay, underscore input is equal to IR underscore pin dot value, right? And then this is where we get our we read our IR sensor input. So I just reading the value of it, okay. And then if the sensor detects the black lane, okay, it is going to return 1, okay. And if it's going to detect the white area, it's going to return 0. So we first program, if it detects the white area, what it should do. So input is equal to 0, which means the sensor is detecting the white area. And what it should do, it should RGB color should be turned to 255 red, right? So 25500. So that line means the RGB color, see here, red, green and blue. So we're saying 255 to red, which means the color red will be on, the rest two are 0. So this will turn our red light on the moment the input is 0, which means the sensor is on white area. What else it should do? Remember that when it turned the red light on, and also put the buzzer on, right? You probably remember that buzzer pin. So we did not actually define the buzzer here, so we need to first define buzzer. So buzzer underscore pin is equal to what? Okay, so we're gonna pick up the buzzer. This is basically machine dot pin, because machine is where the module through which we control it. And we need to again pass, just like IR pin, we pass the pin GP number and is the input or output here, because buzzer is on, I explained to you in the video, buzzer is on GP 14, so we're going to pass on 14, and the pin is out, right, dot out, because we are basically sending a signal to the buzzer, not taking from it, because we want it to go off and beep. So this is how we're gonna use it, buzzer dot pin, okay, buzzer pin dot value. So we're gonna set the value of the buzzer equal to 1, which means it should beep, right? But this line of code will make it beep. And then we program if the IR input is not 0, which means it is 1. In this case, what would happen is it means it's on the black line. So for that one we just need to turn the color to green, right? RGB color to green, and for green we're gonna pass on 000255, which means it is green, right? And also the buzzer should be off, right? Because buzzer should not ring. So we're gonna set its value to buzzer value to 0. So this is a small line of code which is going to do exactly what we programmed our sensor for. So let's run and see if it works. So now what I have to do is save it, okay, and then I'm going to run it. I got an error. Okay, what is error? Traceback mode is called line 14 here. RGB, okay, RGB dot color, okay, equal, equal, we forgot the equal sign. There you go, equal. Here also we need to do equal, right? RGB equal. So save it again and run it. Now bingo, it's working, right? Let me show you. After executing this program, now you see the green light is on and I can test my code again. Here you go. It goes off the moment it gets off the road. See, the program is working. Thank you for watching.